Good morning, everyone, and welcome on this first Sunday of Advent. Hope you all had wonderful Thanksgivings and are ready to, as we enter into a season of preparation. And I will unmute you all for the moment to see if there are any announcements this morning. You can just shout them out if you have any announcements. If you have not gotten an Advent bag, let me know or let June know. June seems to have volunteered to be coordinator of getting Advent bags to folks. They are just at the church, so if you have a key to the church, you can also just stop by and grab one. But they have some materials to get you through doing Advent at home. And special thanks to our quilting elves, Sue Hofstetter and June Manning and Gail Tarani, who made the beautiful Advent mats.
And Julia, too.
And Julia, who made our beautiful quilted Advent candle mats. They're our little deconstructed Advent wreaths for this year. Let me think if there are any other announcements. I don't think so. Watch your email for upcoming events, and don't forget to save your bag to turn it into a luminary for our early Christmas Eve service. I tried out. You'll see pictures soon. I'll have to get them up. I had some luminary practice in the sanctuary the other day, and it was very beautiful, and I'm looking forward to seeing a whole bunch of luminaries outside the church on Christmas Eve as we bring light, celebrate bringing light into the world. All right, so if there are no other announcements, then we will continue with our worship. So I will mute you all again. And we will begin, and I ask your patience today. There's a lot of outside resources like videos and stuff, so I'll be trying to search for them on my computer and play them. So and hopefully everything plays smoothly and the internet connection stays stable. So as we enter into this, we do this day and try something a little different. This Advent, we are looking to hear words of comfort, of challenge, and of good news. The prophet Isaiah and the four gospel authors were writing in a time when people needed desperately to hear all these as well. This first week, Isaiah, the prophet, and Mark, the gospel writer, who published first, reassure the people that good news is beginning, and yet they both say, make yourselves ready, raise your voices, change your hearts, get ready to be transformed, because now is the time. Let us embrace hope that we can do what needs to be done to bring more light into the world.
I believe in the sun. I believe in the sun, even when it's not shining. I believe in the sun. I believe in the sun, even when it's not shining.
The place without light. The place without light. The depth of night. The depth of night. The pit of unknowing. The pit of unknowing. Holy One, we thank you for the glimpses we catch of your gift of untiring hope, even in the midst of fear, of challenge, of struggle. even when our view is obscured by clouds of doubt. Ignite the flame of hope within us, that we might glow with its brilliance inside out.
In the sun, I believe in the sun, even when it's not shining.
Help us face this bleak night of the soul and embrace it as a womb of rebirth. Amen. And now you are invited to light your Advent One candle of hope at this time, if you have not already done so. Our first hymn this morning is Come Thou Long Expected Jesus, which hopefully you all received, or most of you received in with your email. So you have if you have the sheet music, then you can sing along with us. I am just going to find my sheet music. So there it is. Okay. All the things. Sorry, folks. We'll get this eventually. Come thou long expected Jesus, born to set thy people free. From our fears and sins release us, let us find our rest in thee. Israel's strength and consolation, above all the earth thou art, dear desire of every nation, joy of every longing heart. Born thy people to deliver, born a child and yet a king, born to reign in us forever, now thy gracious kingdom bring. By thine own eternal Spirit, rule in all our hearts alone. By thine all-sufficient merit, raise us to thy glorious throne. And now, friends, I know this is not usually our practice in worship, but I want to invite you to, although you can turn to the people who are near you or turn to the screen and make a sign of peace. The peace sign, or the sign language is sort of like this. If you want to do that, or a little namaste bow to each other. So let us pass the peace to each other virtually as we greet each other this morning. You guys are so cute. All right. All right, and now we have our little time to shine for all ages, which is sort of geared toward children. I know we don't have any children joining us this morning, but maybe children might watch after this. Our song going throughout Advent for this time for all ages is "This Little Light of Mine," and we will add a little sign language. So what you do is you take your left hand and make it, that's your candle, and your right hand is your flame, and you hold it close to you like this little light of mine, and then you let it shine like that. So it's a pretty simple, and to show you, give you a little idea of how that goes, let me see if I can turn on my screen sharing. There we go. Can you all see our singers? All right, and we're gonna, wait, hold on. Ready? Ready, and this little light. Sing it loud.
This little light of mine. Louder. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine.
Let it shine, let it shine.
I'm gonna let it shine.
All right. We're gonna and then we are going to our Isaiah reading this morning is going to be a video. So let's see, we'll get that shared also. So I invite you to just sit back and listen to the words of Isaiah and watch this beautiful video.
Comfort, O comfort my people, says your God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem and cry to her that she has served her term, that her penalty is paid, that she has received from the Lord's hand double for all her sins. A voice cries out, in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. Make level in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be lifted up, and every mountain and hill will be made low. Uneven ground shall become level, and rough terrain made plain. The glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all humanity will see it together, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. A voice says, cry out. And I said, what should I cry? All flesh is grass, all its constancy is like the flowers of the field. The grass withers, the flower fades, when the breath of the Lord blows upon it. Surely the people are grass, the grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God will stand forever. Go up on a high mountain, messenger Zion. Raise your voice and shout, messenger Jerusalem. Shout without fear. Say to the cities of Judah, here is your God. The Lord our God, you come with strength, with a triumphant arm, bringing your reward with you and your reparation before you. Like a shepherd, God will tend the flock, gathering lambs and holding them close, and leading mother ewes with gentleness. The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
All right. Let me see if I can find. Jagers. Hold on one second. Sorry, folks. Looking for There we go. Grace, did you ever, I can't see you, so either send me a chat or I can't, oh, there we go. Unmute. Unmute. It's not unmuting you. All right, I'm just gonna read your piece since I can't unmute you anyway. All right. Our worship series this Advent calls on the power of sung poetry that inspires those who hear it to a brighter tomorrow. It has been a difficult time in this pandemic for singing to be restricted. In its absence, we have been reminded just how important it is to sing together. Indeed, music has often been the soundtrack of hope. So we are preparing a season of music appreciation for you, as well as reflection on the power of music. Someday we will once again be able to join our voices in song in our sanctuary. But for now, rather than turn away from music in sorrow, we will turn toward the story of music and deepen our appreciation of its role in healing, change, and reconciliation. This morning, we present to you the theme anthem for this Advent series that features the poetry of an anonymous Jewish person during the Holocaust. These words were found scrawled on a wall and have now been shared with the world, reminding us of the resilience of hope. May we never forget what can happen when evil is allowed to go unchecked, and may we always use our music, our art, our poetry, even our simple acts of kindness as inspiration to create goodness, not evil, in this world. Let me get our anthem for this morning. Once again,
I believe in the sun.
Even when it's not shining.
I believe in love.
Even when I don't feel it.
I believe in God.
Even when God is silent.
I believe.
I believe.
I believe.
I believe in the sun. I believe in the sun. Even when it's not shining. I believe in the sun. I believe in the sun. Even when it's not shining.
Can you, Pauline, are you doing our mark reading? All right, let me unmute you. Maybe you can unmute yourself. Come on. There you go.
Okay, there you go. Okay, the second reading today is from Mark 1, verses 1 through 15. The beginning of the good news about Jesus Christ, God's Son, happened just as it was written about in the prophecy of Isaiah. Look, I am sending my messenger before you. He will prepare your way, a voice shouting in the wilderness. Prepare the way for the Lord. Make his paths straight. John the Baptist was in the wilderness, calling for people to be baptized to show that they were changing their hearts and lives and wanted God to forgive their sins. Everyone in Judea and all the people of Jerusalem went out to the Jordan River and were being baptized by John as they confessed their sins. John wore clothes made of camel's hair with a leather belt around his waist. He ate locusts and wild honey. He announced, "One stronger than I am is coming after me. I'm not even worthy to bend over and loosen the strap of his sandals. I baptize you with water, but he will baptize you with the Holy Spirit." About that time, Jesus came from Nazareth of Galilee, and John baptized him in the Jordan River. While he was coming out of the water, Jesus saw heaven splitting open, and the Spirit, like a dove, coming down on him. And there was a voice from heaven, "You are my Son, whom I dearly love. In you I find happiness." At once the Spirit forced Jesus out into the wilderness. He was in the wilderness for 40 days, tempted by Satan. He was among the wild animals, and the angels took care of him. After John was arrested, Jesus came into Galilee, announcing God's good news, saying, "Now is the time. Here comes God's kingdom. Change your hearts and lives and trust this good news."
Let us pray. Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O God. Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O God. Amen. I'm going to start by reading to you sort of the little synopsis for this Advent series that we're doing. So this Advent series was created by Marcia McPhee. She runs a company, has a business called Worship Design Series, and does all of this sort of worship creation and planning and liturgy making all throughout the year. And she has partnered with a friend of mine, Mark Miller, who is a prolific composer and hymn writer. If you've ever been in a United Methodist church, you have probably sung many of his hymns. He's Methodist, and I know that multiples of his hymns are in the United Methodist hymnal. But he is the one who composed that beautiful song, "I Believe Even When," and that is sort of the focus of the series. So let me just read you her synopsis for this series. The history of humanity is fraught with pain, especially the pain that comes accompanied by fear and leads to oppression and violence of one people against another. This is the world into which Jesus was born, and through which his teachings would challenge and call for transformation. The opening words of an anonymous Jewish poet, "I believe in the sun, even when the sun is not shining," were scrawled on a wall during the Holocaust. This theme song for our season calls us to examine our penchant for annihilating fear by annihilating each other. The power of narrative and music will call us to a different response: transformation and reconciliation through hope, love, joy, and peace. This Advent and Christmas, let us fill the night with music and light and affirm and act on the reasons why we can still believe even when we are discouraged. And I found it interesting as she continued sort of in her descriptions of the series, sort of aimed at the leaders of the series. One of the lines really stood out to me, which is, "The root of animosity toward one another is fear of our own annihilation, and the fruit of it is violence. We are not the first to experience the depths of despair when fear raises its head. We will not be the last. But we in this moment have choices to make about whether we will overcome evil, whether we will be overcome by evil, or if we will raise our voices to proclaim another way." This is the season of Advent. It is a time of preparation for something that has already happened, and yet for which we still wait. We tend to focus most of our Advent preparations on Christmas and the birth of Jesus, but it is also waiting. It is waiting for Jesus to come again into the world, for Christ to return, for God to show God's self in this broken world. And so we wait. Of course, this comes after many months of waiting, many months of hoping and expectation and trying to be patient as things are drawn out a little bit longer. If you had told me in March that we would still be here at Advent, I would not have believed you. We were so hopeful even for Easter, and yet here we are. It is a world that is filled on some days with so much despair, it is hard to hold on to hope. And yet that is exactly what our call is to do. Now, this does not mean ignoring the reality of the world around us. I can hear the roosters. I don't know, maybe you can hear the roosters too outside the door. I don't know if Washington has it, but at least around this area in the Peterborough area, I've seen lawn signs that say, "Fear has no home here." And while most of the time I appreciate that sentiment, I'm going to guess, I'm taking an educated guess that with the political signs that accompanied those signs, that those are residences that are not wearing masks and are not social distancing and are using those actions to claim that they are not afraid of this pandemic. And that is not the be not afraid that I am talking about. Certainly, we have been in situations, perhaps not we, but our ancestors, those who come before us, have been in times, if you're in London during the war and the air raid sirens go off, you're not going to just be like, well, I'm not going to be afraid. No, you're going to run for cover and do what you need to do. And so we do protect ourselves and our neighbors by facing reality. However, how we do that, how we react in the face of fear, is what can make us rise above or fall. Music. We've all tried to argue with people, but music has been a way for people to rise above, for people to find hope in desolation, to find a way of being resilient and even defiant in the face of fear and evil. So a part of this series that Marcia McPhee has created is a mini film festival. So for each of this week, she has provided information about a film, which she suggests goes along. So I'm just gonna play you the trailer for this week's film, which you can certainly watch yourself. If you are a PBS watcher, you may have seen it because it did air on PBS a few years ago. But if you want to watch it, it's unfortunately only available on Amazon Prime, so you can view it there. But this is the film is called Defiant Requiem. So I'm going to share my screen once again. Hopefully. And hopefully. Okay, or not. Hold on. Let's try that again. There we go.
I went downstairs and there was a man sitting and he just said, I want to know, do all of you like to sing?
If people are robbed of freedom, they want to be creative, and they were.
Verdi's music is powerful. It represents a threat. And it was a tremendous challenge to have the Germans right there in front of us and tell them to their face.
It was something which made us strong. It has given us a resistance against our fate.
Doing a performance was not entertainment. It was a fight for life.
This Verdi's Requiem put all of us into another world. This was not the world with the Nazis. This was our world.
These were hours of pure joy, as much as you can call joy in camp.
Here they were, surrounded by man's worst, and these Jewish prisoners were determined to remind everyone of man's best. And I brought the Verdi here because I want to assure these people that we've heard them.
I don't think the soul has to be nourished by anything but by heavenly music. The soul doesn't need anything else.
Music as defiance. There is something about music which does touch our very soul, which touches us in a way that our minds, which can be so focused on logic and the facts and the real truths of the world, music goes beyond that. I have had experience with people who have been in the hospital, in long-term care facilities, who are mostly non-responsive and will respond to music, will mouth the words to familiar hymns, will rouse their vital signs change when they are surrounded by music. Music is such a source of hope. And while it is certainly hard for us, I know our choir members are just reeling from not being able to sing together. And I know Grace would love to be playing for us live rather than over her iPad. I love this idea. I appreciate this idea of, instead of stepping back and throwing up our hands in sorrow and despair, instead leaning into this and saying, we will find our music. We will love our music. We will use our music in whatever way we can to find hope for ourselves, to bring hope to the world. So I encourage you this week, as we enter into the season of Advent, as we begin our preparations, as we look around to see in what strange new way God might be entering the world, find your music. Surround yourself with music. Try out new music. Listen to Verdi if you've never listened to Verdi. Handel's Messiah begins with this passage from Isaiah that we read today. Comfort, comfort my people. Go on and throw those Christmas carols on. Find the songs that uplift you and bring you hope. It is a hard time that we're living in, but it has been done before. When Isaiah wrote those words, the Israelites were living under Babylonian exile. They were not in their homes. They had no idea when they would ever see that what was familiar again. And yet here is this voice crying comfort, reminding them of God's steadfastness and love. We too can remind people of God's steadfastness and love, can raise our voices and cry from the mountaintops. There is hope. Yes, pay attention to the facts, but don't let fear turn you to evil. Don't let fear separate you from people. Social distance, yes. Separate, no. Look for the angels in the world and maybe find a way to be one. This is the hope of Advent. We are waiting for God, and yet God is already here. May you begin this season of reflection by paying closer attention to the way God is in the world around us and to listen to the music. It brings a defiant resilience into the world. Amen. And now I invite you to read this litany of belief with me. You have the bold parts, and this goes along with our Advent theme. In times when humanity disappoints, perhaps even when our own thoughts and behaviors disappoint, it is an important act to call out, name, and claim the consequences of our wrongs. And in times of distress, it is a prophetic act to call out, name, and claim our belief in the hope for tomorrow. And these are not statements of belief. Mine says own congregation, but it's not. So hear these statements. I believe that we have looked the other way too many times, and I believe that we are capable of facing reality and working for change. I believe that our fear of difference has robbed us of compassion, and I believe that we can look deeper and hold on to the things that we have in common. I believe that our fear of doubt makes us stop asking tough questions, and I believe that asking tough questions in the face of injustice is faithful. We believe even when we are discouraged. We believe that when we are discouraged, raising our voices for justice will offer us hope. And now we start to enter into our time of prayer. So I'm going to unmute you all. So prayers are going to be a little bit different. We will gather our joys and concerns this morning, but then our prayer time will be, we'll have this song and video, and then it'll be a time of mostly of silence. I think in the midst of all this, in the midst of all the holiday noise, sometimes a little peace and silence can be a little stillness. That's the sort of a theme. That's a song that we're using for our prayer. The moments of stillness are hard to come by, so we'll have a little moments of stillness, and then we'll have a little, and then I'll invite you to join me in the Lord's Prayer. So, are there joys or concerns to share this morning? And just remember also that we're recording this, so be aware of privacy concerns. Nobody's got prayers this morning. Well, that makes things easy. Are you sure? All right. Well, last call then. All right.
Well, I think we can all lift up our prayers to those in quarantine, as well as those who are struggling with the coronavirus in healing, and those who are really sick, as well as those who are caring for them. I'm sure that that's on all of our hearts.
Absolutely.
I have some news. It's more just to share. I have since found out that I'm on an access system with national people, and it's been broadcasted US and global. And I have since found out that they've been accessing me for 10 to 15 years and taking agendas without payment. And ultimately, there's 25 agendas. We have attempted to rise above, 3 different times. And the political system seems to be the one that offloads it into this derogatory place. And the chiefs on one level are accepting it in the United States as a comfortable place between large industry and large political. And they don't seem to have a sense around the aggressiveness and how wrong it is due to lack of mutual consent. And so the abuse of networks and network systems now seems to be rather rampant. And so we're trying to change it, but to have confronted this meant that they did offload me, I think, here, and ultimately became very aggressive to do that. And I was set up so badly before the election. In an effort to bring it forward was one approach, but there was no way for me to understand what was going on. So it becomes very difficult to execute if you don't understand what you're into, right? So very severe issues that I believe were mishandled, and people on one side of the fence can say, oh, I meant to do this, but the reality is in execution, it was complete failure. And ultimately, the failure is in the protocols. They dead-ended my success over 10 years to take it as gain for theirs. And ultimately, the protocols they have actually demonstrate the the non-truth of what they're saying they're going to execute with me. So it's a very awkward situation that, you know, our community and has been brought into. And it's still unclear to me, with all the efforts, how to actually finalize the fix. And we have the solution for the U.S., but the willingness, due to the aggression, has offloaded it, and the confusion in particular. And there's an assumption they want to do it again, which was ultimately a setup to do it again. So in essence, by not resolving it, we get to do it again. And that actually perpetuates the abuse. And so it's very unclear to me why a chief system or a political system would participate in this kind of abuse on a regular basis without any kind of regard, as they try to tell themselves they're being benevolent. So under the benevolent practices, actually, protocols, they actually have created corrupt behavior.
No, I'm sorry you're going through all that, Ellen. We will absolutely keep you in our prayers.
Yeah, well, it's just intellectually, it's, you know, if anybody ever wants to really sit down and talk about it, because I need intellect on this one, which is, you know, it's a perpetual, and they're still accessing. And then saying the solution is, oh, we help you some more so that we can access you some more. So it's a broadcast system that I have denied and asked for them to remove. And then they did it. And I've gone to the police to say that it's harassment if they come to the ground, to actually try to, you know, limit what goes on around me, even though there was some good intentions and we're trying to revamp it. But, you know, I had a death threat from my mother in the nursing home. I had a death threat here that I would be killed in my car by the conservative side. So the issues are very real for me with regards to what's happening. And I've been unable to communicate because I didn't understand until more recently. But the solution, because it's now under squelch and cover, is hard to understand, to be clear that they will execute out.
Yeah. All right, well, we can talk about this some more later too, okay? Are there other
We have the solution though. That's the good news, right?
Yeah.
And they're holding up national recovery, 1 to 4 million jobs, but they'll probably take it and change it and then say it was there. So I may need to go to press and TV. So if anybody has any legs on that one, and ultimately to move forward, that'd be great.
Great. Any other prayers?
Sorry to share so detailed, personal.
All right.
It's frightening.
I'm going to go ahead and mute you all again. And I invite you to get in a comfortable position of rest. I invite you to get as quiet and still as you can. I invite you to a deep breath and a deep listening posture. Perhaps your eyes closed or fixed on a candle, or watching this video, which has some lovely scenery, as we prepare for a time of prayer. Hopefully. All right, let's try again.
The gentle pull of God is often lost amidst the rush of all the obligations that lay a claim on us. And just beyond that frantic pace, our restless feet have trod, lie deep still pools of quietness, the dwelling place of God. Meet me in stillness, Lord, be the air I breathe. Meet me in the stillness, Lord. Free me to receive. Oh, take me to that sacred place where, lost in wonder and in awe, that moment comes and I rejoice to be and be with God. Meet me in the stillness, Lord. Be the air I breathe. Meet me in the stillness, Lord. Free me to receive.
So I invite you to continue in a spirit of prayer. Lifting up to God your joys and your concerns for you personally, for our wider community, for our world, as we sit in a few moments of silence. And now, having offered these prayers to God, let us join together in praying the words that Jesus taught his disciples by praying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Lead me in the stillness, Lord. Be the air I breathe. Lead me in the stillness, Lord. Free me to receive.
Now I have to find my document again. I keep bending down because the sun is shining on my computer. All right. And now this is your weekly reminder that although we are not passing plates throughout the aisles and walking down and back through the sanctuary, that we still are collecting our offering and welcoming your gifts to the church to support the church's ministry. And I would also invite you this week to see if you can find opportunities to fill the night with hope. So gifts of kindness, gifts of time, gifts of service, other ways that you can offer gifts to the church and to the world. And now we have a special doxology of hope, which we will do if I can find it. Let's see. Hopeful doxology. There we go. And I will share my screen again.
Believe with a hopeful heart. Believe and shine your light. Believe because the song we sing is sung for all. And now let the weak say I am strong. Let the poor say I am rich because of what our God has done for us. Believe.
All right. So as we go forth from this place, we sing a carol of resistance. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow wrote this poem at Harvard on Christmas Day in 1863, during the heart of the Civil War. His wife had died tragically in a fire, and he had just found out that his son had been injured as a soldier for the Union. He heard the sound of bells and began to write, spurred on by his sorrow at the state of humankind. And in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And yet hope wins out as he pens the fourth verse. Then pealed the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men. So we'll find our music here. Heard the bells on Christmas Day, and I need to find I heard the bells on Christmas Day. All right, hold on. I know I have it. Apologies, folks. Oh, goodness, come on. There we go. All right. We'll figure this out eventually, I promise. Come on. No. Here we go. Okay. So I invite you to sing along. You have the music. I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet their words repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men. I thought that how the day had come, the praise of all Christendom had rolled along the thundering song of peace on earth, goodwill to is strong. It's the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then peal the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. Ere wrong shall fail, the right prevail. With peace on earth, goodwill to men. Till ringing, singing on its way, the world revolve from night to day. A voice, a chime, a chant sublime of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Friends, before I do our benediction, I want to give you a small homework assignment. In the spirit of this series of I Believe Even When, I invite you to write your own sort of litany of beliefs, sort of like the litany that we did, where we have the first sentence is something that is wrong with the world, and then you follow it up with a second sentence of a hope for the world or what is right with the world. So I invite you to sort of sit in reflection and see if you can come up with your own I believe statements and send them along to me. You can, just send me an email or leave me a voicemail message or somehow send me a Facebook message, however you want to send them to me. We'll collect those statements of belief, and they might be used next week in our litany, another litany of belief. And now, we wait for justice, but we do not wait to work for change. We wait for restored health, but we do not wait to work to heal. We wait for wholeness, but we do not wait to work at binding brokenness. We wait for peace, but we do not wait to work to eliminate hatred. And so, my friends, like bells ringing out the news that the sun still shines even on cloudy days, fill the night left by sadness with messages of hope. Go into your lives humming the tunes that keep hope alive in you and that spur you in your work of justice and reconciliation. Raise your voices and repeat after me. Do not be afraid. Not be afraid. Amen. And now we have our song benediction here. All right, friends, let me